Hello, Gymnastics family. My name is Sani Yosaki. I am chairperson of FIG Anti-Doping Medical and Mental Health Commission. Along with the FIG safeguarding lesson, the commission tried to present mental health issues in gymnastics and the community. I hope you will learn from this presentation something that helps your daily training and your athletes. Mental health issues are reasonably related to the culture of sports and the organization of the sports. In the last decade, the culture in gymnastics has been changing toward the well-being of athletes and the gymnastics family. This presentation explains the signs and the symptoms you must identify when your athletes must be consulted with mental health specialists. The Commission believes that the principles of athletes' well-being consist of the following: nutrition, eating. Athletes must have sufficient intake to meet the energy demands of training and competition. Hydration. Athletes must consume fluids regularly throughout the day. With proper hydration, athletes should feel the need to urinate every 1 to 3 hours. The required fluid intake will vary based on the amount of sweating and other factors. Sleep. Athletes should have 8 to 9 hours of sleep each night for optimal recovery of body and mind. Athletes should develop good sleep habits to ensure consistent and good quality of sleep. Injury pain management. Decisions around pain and injury should prioritize the athlete's long-term well-being. Seek medical care when an athlete's pain is moderate to severe in intensity if it does not improve within 1 week, or if the pain worsens. Concussion management. Coaches should understand the mechanism of injury for concussion, and if concussion is suspected, athletes should be evaluated by a medical professional before being allowed to return to play. Because concussion may cause mental health symptoms such as depression, I will explain more detail in this presentation. Mental health. Mental health is just as important as physical health. Athletes with mental health concerns should be evaluated by a mental health professional. Those are not mutually exclusive. You must consider the relationships of each factor in the dynamics of your training context. Depression, anxiety, stress, sadness, frustrated, fear, and alone come out in the word cloud of the view about mental health symptoms in athletes and entourage. According to the IOC, up to 35% of athletes suffer from mental health disorders or illnesses. Because of public and self-stigma and concerns to peers and coaches, there are barriers to seeking mental health care. Here are mental disorders you may encounter during your training. They are anxiety disorders, mood disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, eating disorders, and concussion. Again, I will emphasize the signs and symptoms here instead of explaining the medical aspects of each disorder. Please note that there are overlapping in terms of signs and symptoms in these mental disorders. Therefore, when encountering signs or symptoms of mental disorders in your athletes, please consult mental health providers with no delay. It is my experience as FIG doctor at an international competition that severe anxiety stopped an elite athlete from continuing performance during the routine, and the athletes withdraw from the competition. Anxiety is a normal and a necessary part of training and competition. Anxiety disorders, however, refer to a cluster of severe or intense symptoms that are long-lasting, disproportionate to the reality of context, and interfere with an athlete's daily functioning, including sport performance and relationships with others. There are emotional symptoms and physical signs. Emotional symptoms are anxiety or fear, tense or nervous feelings, restlessness or irritability, anticipating the worst, and being watchful for signs of danger. Physical signs are pounding or racing heart, and shortness of breath, sweating, tremors and twitches, headaches, fatigue and sleep disturbance, upset stomach, frequent urination, and diarrhea. Mood disorders include overtraining syndrome and depressive disorder. Depressive condition in sports appears as a spectrum, as you see on the bottom of this slide. The normal mood is on one side and depression is on the other. The depressive disorder comes close to depression, and overtraining syndrome is part of depressive disorder. Athletes may present unexplained and underperformance signs, symptoms, decreased motivation, sleep disturbances, loss of libido, depressive mood, impaired concentration, and fatigue, impaired energy. Please note that if your athlete shows any signs of suicide, including thinking, planning, attempting, it is an emergency. The athletes must be consulted and psychiatry immediately. The next topic is post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Athletes may be exposed to traumatic events, whether or not their injury, that can lead to long-term psychological and physical suffering. Possible sources of trauma include injury, witnessing of trauma, and sexual violence. Symptoms are inconsistencies in performance, increased physical complaints, avoidance behavior, interpersonal challenges, and overtraining. These symptoms interfere with rehabilitation and performance. The next topic is post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Athletes may be exposed to traumatic events, whether or not their injury, that can lead to long-term psychological and physical suffering. Possible sources of trauma include injury, witnessing of trauma, and sexual violence. Symptoms are inconsistencies in performance, increased physical complaints, avoidance behavior, interpersonal challenges, and overtraining. These symptoms interfere with rehabilitation and performance. Eating disorders in gymnastics may affect not only an active period career, but also lifelong period. For example, menstrual dysfunction and low bone mineral density in female athletes are serious consequences of eating disorders and malnutrition. You may notice that your athlete shows signs of obsession with food and exercise, denying self of food to starvation, binge eating, and using laxatives. behaviors, compulsive exercise beyond good for performance and health, social withdrawal, and fear of eating in public. Finally, concussion in sports is one of the lately well-studied topics and can develop mental symptoms. Cruz revealed that concussion occurred in 7% of the elite level competition in the USA from 2008 to 2018. Jennifer Say describes in her book how concussion was managed in the gym in the 1980s. She descended from great heights and furled her body from its tight and jackknifed position as she lost her bearing and landed, crunch, on her neck. The coach railed at her before even checking to see if she would or could get up. "What are you doing? Get up," he raised. She continued practice, and everyone assumed she was fine. On the first day of competition, we ceremoniously marched out. Midway through the anthem, the line of girls parted from the middle with gasps and oops. I moved back as the line peeled away and saw Tracy on the floor in a puddle of her own vomit. She was rushed to a nearby hospital, treated for a severe concussion. Now, the FIG Anti-Doping, Medical and Mental Health Commission published FIG concussion guidelines on the FIG website. Along with the guideline, there is a return to sports strategy for each discipline. Please refer to the website shown here. That's all for today, and I hope you have got something to help your training. Thank you very much.